people listening here are golfers, but I thought it was a big weekend for golfers with the Ryder Cup going on. So I thought I would start with a couple comments related to golf. First of all, what does USGA mean to you? And some of you at least are going to be thinking United States Golf Association, right?
Right.
They are the ones that set the rules for golf. Okay. And there are a lot of them. You know, there's probably, you've never looked at a USGA rule book, but it's pretty good sized. I never have either, but there's a ton of rules. When we go out and play golf, we follow some of those rules, but we don't follow a lot of them, and we make up rules with our friends, and we have a perfectly good time. What does ACBL mean to you? You should be
American
thinking
Contract Bridge League.
American Contract Bridge League, right? American, because that's the group that sets the rules for bridge in North America. Okay, contract means it sets the rules for bridge where there is an auction involved, to see who plays the hand and what they play it in. So there's an auction involved to set the contract. ACBL has a ton of rules also, and we try and follow those rules when we play bridge, but if we're playing just casually with our friends, we probably don't follow too many of them. If we're playing more competitively, we're expected to follow more of them, but they're out there, right? One of the rules of bridge is that when you have the auction to decide what the contract's going to be and who plays it, during the auction, you're trying to describe your hand to your partner and vice versa. But one of the rules of bridge is that the opponents have a right to listen to what you're saying. You're not allowed to have secrets from the opponents. So when you and your partner are trying to describe your hands to each other, the opponents are entitled to listen to that, and they're entitled to know everything you're saying. And frequently, when I play against incredibly experienced opponents, we get to the end of the auction, and I'm thinking, they not only know their own hands, but they know my hand and my partner's hand better than my partner and I do, because they've been listening to our auction too, and they know more about the game, and they probably pick up on stuff that I didn't. So unless my partner and I have been telling lies, they probably know exactly what we have. And the more experienced they are, the more that's likely to be true. So you're not entitled to have secrets from your opponents. They're entitled to know what you're saying. The rules of bridge also allow you to make agreements where the thing you say, like 2 clubs, doesn't really mean you have clubs. It means something else. It means you have 22 or more points, maybe, but it says nothing about clubs. You're entitled to make agreements like that. And if you have those, they're called conventional agreements. You know, basically anything you say at the table, you know, if I say spades and it doesn't mean I have spades, whether it's 1 spade or 2 spades or 3 spades or whatever, and my partner have agreed that in that situation, it doesn't mean I have spades, we're using a convention. We've made a conventional agreement. And since the opponents are entitled to know what they're saying, they're entitled to know what that agreement is also, right? And as you get more and more experienced at bridge, you tend to accumulate more and more of these conventions. So let's say you're going to sit down, you and your partner are real experienced, and the opponents you're going to play bridge against are real experienced. So both of you have a lot of conventional agreements, and you're going to sit down and play bridge with each other. Do you spend a half an hour trying to explain all your conventions to them before you even start playing? And the other way around? I mean, you could, but that would be pretty tedious, right? So ACBL came up with a thing called the convention card. And you know what it looks like? It's a place where you can mark the conventions you play. So that, first of all, so that you can remember what you're playing. And second of all, so that the opponents could look very quickly at this card and see the conventions you play. And there are things on the convention card that you fill in that aren't even conventions. They're just, you know, if you say one spade and it means you've got spades, well, how many spades does it mean you have? Does it mean you have at least 4 spades? Does it mean you have 5 spades? If you bid 3 spades, how many spades do you have now if it means you have spades? So the convention card is just it's a card that ACBL has come up with where you and your partner can sit down and just make a little record of what it is you've agreed that these bids, or whether they're conventional or not, are going to mean. And maybe it's been a month since you've played with that particular partner, and maybe you don't. Maybe you've played with other partners in between, and you're thinking, oh, gee, what do I play with Ralph? I haven't played with Ralph. You know, convention. If you have a convention card for Ralph, you can look at that very quickly and remind yourself of what it is you and Ralph have agreed to. So basically the history of the convention card, I don't know how far back it goes, but it's been around for a long time. If all you ever play is social bridge, you may never see a convention card. And if all you ever play is social bridge, you may not have any conventional agreements. But you certainly have agreements like when you bid 1 spade, how many spades does it mean you have? You know, you certainly have agreements, right? When you bid 1 no trump, how many points does it mean you have? You know, certainly you have some agreements, even if all you ever play is social bridge. But you could go through your whole life playing social bridge and never see a convention card, and it wouldn't make any particular difference to you. So you don't need a convention card if you're just playing social bridge. The rules don't say you have to have one. Okay. Would it be useful? Sure. You know, I find it, if all I was ever going to play the rest of my life is social bridge, I would find it very useful. Maybe I don't even remember myself what I've agreed I'm going to play. Well, I just get a convention card. I fill it out with what I tend to play. And if my partner is Cindy, I fill it out with what Cindy has agreed to play. And if my partner is Jan, I fill one out that says Jan on it, which is what Jan and I have agreed to play. And maybe Jan and Cindy disagree on something. So maybe I've agreed to play one thing with Cindy and one thing with Jan. If I had to just keep track of all this stuff in my head, it would be a real pain. So I find convention cards very convenient, whether I'm required to have them or not, just to keep track of, you know, it's a reminder of, okay, what is it that I have decided I'm going to play here? And it's a real quick way to look at it in review. So when I teach beginning bridge, one of the last things I do in the last class is I pass out a convention card to my students, and most of them have never seen one before. And I say, okay, we're going to go through this convention card, and we're going to check off or fill in the things I've taught you about bridge that I'm hoping you're going to go forward with when you play the game. And then you've got a record of it. Here's what Vic taught us in the class. And now the idea is see if you can remember how to do those things when you go out and play. And if you do go out and you start playing a lot, you may add additional things to that card. great, add something new, put it on there. You've just got a handy reference that you can look at to decide, to remind yourself of what it is you do in the auction when you're playing bridge. If you play duplicate bridge, you're not allowed to talk out loud at the table about any one of your bids. So, if I'm playing social bridge and you're my partner and I bid one no trump, you can say, partner, I've forgotten what our agreement is for one no trump. Does that mean 15 to 17 points or 14 to 16 points? And I would say, well, I think we decided 15 to 17, right? You can't do that in a duplicate bridge game. You're not allowed to tell anybody at the table about one of your bids. Partner is expected to remember what your bridge is when you play duplicate bridge. So duplicate bridge, if you're ever going to play that, requires that you fill out a convention card that you and partner have agreed on before the game starts. And both of you should fill it out, and they should be identical. And you're required to bring those to the table with you, not so you can look at it. You're not allowed to look at it when you're playing. Because another rule of bridge is you're not allowed a memory aid. Well, you don't necessarily follow that when you play social bridge either, but duplicate bridge is more competitive, so you're expected to follow that rule. So the convention card you bring to the table with you, and it just sort of sits there where you're not supposed to be looking at it. And if you open one no trump, or you make some conventional bid, your partner is required to say alert, and then the opponents can ask to see your convention card if they want to know what that bid means. It's right there in writing. They can also just ask you to explain what it means, but then you can't explain what it means, your partner has to. Because if you explain what it means, you're reminding your partner of what it means, and they might have forgotten, right? So, when my opponents in a duplicate bridge game, especially a club level game, make a bid that I know is conventional, maybe they say alert, so I know it's conventional. I can ask to see their convention card and look it up myself, or I can just ask them to explain it. And I normally just ask them to explain it because that's much easier. But it's not the person that made the bid that has to explain it, it's their partner. And if their partner gets it wrong, the person that made the bid cannot correct that. They can't say, whoops, partner, you got it wrong. They just sit there and think, oh my God, partner's got it wrong, right? And they might try and scramble to correct that, but they can't say anything about it. They just have to go forward with that. And if the partner explains it wrong, and we get to the end of the play of the hand, and I feel like I was harmed because of the incorrect explanation, I can object to that and have a director come over, and maybe the director will adjust the results in some way or another. So anyway, that's sort of where a convention cards came from. And that's why they're needed in a duplicate bridge game. You have to bring one to the table with you. And I think whether you're ever going to be playing duplicate bridge or not, it would be interesting for you to make one out anyway, because I think it would be a great way, like I said, of keeping track of what you play and what you play with which partners. So any questions just about that aspect of it, just in general? Okay, well, what we're going to go through here then, and we might not finish this today. It might take 2 Zoom sessions or 3 Zoom sessions. We're not going to be in a rush here. We're going to start going through the convention card box by box. Ralph's got a nice thing set up on the screen here where we can just scroll through one section at a time in nice big writing. And it's going to be filled out the way I tell my beginning bridge students to fill it out in the last session of the beginning bridge course they take from me, which is actually a two-part course. So this is the last session of the second part of the course that we do this in. So, and I've told them everything that we're going to mark on here. Do they remember everything we're going to mark on here? I doubt it. Okay. So it's a convention card for them to aspire to, not one they should take to the table and start using unless they really do remember how all of this stuff works, okay? If they don't remember how all of this stuff works, the one they take to the table with them, if they play duplicate bridge, has to be a simplified version that has only the things on it that they remember, okay? So, general approach, that's a blank, on what's up on the screen here, it says Standard American. And you guys just stop me and jump in anytime you have questions here. I'm going to stop after each box too and encourage you to ask questions, but jump in anytime if you want to ask me something. So that line says Standard American right now. It's blank on the original convention card. In North America, there are two major bidding schemes, bridge bidding and playing schemes that are taught. One is called Standard American and the other one is called 2/1. I teach Standard American. 2/1 is very popular. There's a third general approach that some people play in North America called precision. Okay, that's not very common. If you were learning to play bridge in Europe, you would probably learn a thing called A-call. If you're a robot on BBO, you've been taught a scheme called, what's it called? GIB, and I can't even remember what it stands for, which is a really bizarre scheme, I think. You know, it really is bizarre. But the stuff that we're going to mark here as we go through this is part of a general scheme called Standard American, which is very common in North America. And the only thing that I tell them they should check in that box, see where it says forcing opening and the two clubs is checked? That box is checked. And what that means is if I ever open two clubs, that's a forcing bid for my partner. Normally, and it turns out it doesn't mean I have clubs. So normally you would expect that two clubs to be in red, but it's not, is it? It's in black. If it's in red, it means it's a convention, it's hitting you over the head saying, this is a conventional bid, people. It doesn't really mean he's got clubs. And it doesn't in Standard American. So why do you suppose it's not red? It's not red because it's so common that ACBL says, well, everybody knows an opening bid of two clubs does not mean they have clubs. Well, that's pretty arrogant. You know, if I was a social bridge player, I wouldn't know an opening bid of two clubs didn't mean they had clubs, right? But if you're out playing with people that have played very much bridge at all, probably everybody knows that, but not everybody does. But ACBL says, well, this is so common, we're not going to make it in red and have to go through the alert. We're just going to put it in black and assume everybody knows that it doesn't mean they've got clubs. Okay. What does it mean? It means, partner, I've got at least 22 points. It's a way of showing a big hand. See the one club right next to it that's in red? That is the big hand alert bid for people that play precision. And that does have to be alerted. If you play precision and you're using one club as your big hand alert, you have to alert that because ACBL says nobody's going to know you're playing precision, right? But in standard American, 2 clubs means you got 22 or more points. It doesn't say anything about clubs or any other suit. It doesn't say you're balanced or you're unbalanced. It just says, partner, I've got at least 22 points, and it's forcing. Your partner must respond. They cannot pass. Everybody happy with that one?
Hey, Vic.
Mm-hmm.
There's standard American, and then when you go to BBO, there's standard American yellow card. Can you explain what the
Yellow card is a version of standard American that has bids in it that are not what you would normally expect in standard American. It's a tweaked version of standard American. They call it yellow card standard American because it follows most of the agreements of standard American, but not all of them. I do not like yellow card standard American, and many people agree with me. I do not suggest you play it. Why is it there? Because there are some ACBL tournaments where they want to make sure, where they don't allow people to play all their own conventional agreements. They say everybody must follow standard American yellow card that plays in this tournament. They can't use bids that are not standard American yellow card bids. That's why it's there, okay? But it's not a really great system. You should not, I would encourage you not to use it unless you're forced to, because it's required for the particular tournament you've entered or whatever.
So when you said that everybody knows 2 clubs, is that what black means? Is it's pretty
Black just means we think that, you know, they're saying we think that it's such common knowledge that 2 clubs is a bid that shows a strong hand. ACBL is saying we think this is such common knowledge that we're just going to put it in there in black, and we're not going to demand that it be alerted.
Okay, but what I wanted to know is throughout the card, if it's in black, is that what it normally stands for? It's pretty common.
Yeah, on your card, it just, if anything in black on the card does not need to be alerted.
Okay.
And you'll notice most things are in black, right?
Right. Okay.
Some things are in red. That means those things, if you're using them, need to be alerted. Some things are in blue. See the box right down below there? That's where we're going next to no trump. There's some stuff in blue, right?
Yes.
Blue means it requires an automatic, and it doesn't, you don't say alert, you make an automatic announcement of what it means. Okay? So that's what the color coding is on there.
Okay, thank you.
So black means you don't have to say anything. There's no explanation or alert required. Blue means you have to make an announcement. And if you're playing real live bridge with people at a table, it's your partner that has to make the announcement because you're not allowed to say anything about your own bids. If you're playing online, you need to make the announcement in advance yourself, or the alert yourself, right? But if you're playing live, it's your partner that has to say alert, or your partner that has to make the announcement. And if they forget to, you can't nudge them and say, hey, partner, because they screwed up, right? And they're on the wrong track, and you can't correct them.
Thank you.
Okay. Good questions. Are we ready for no trump opening bids? Okay, when I get done, you know, the students that are ready to graduate from my beginning bridge class, there's not a whole lot that they know enough to fill in there. We have talked about what an opening 1 no trump bid means. It means they have 15 to 17 points and a balanced hand, of course. You know, no trump means the hand is balanced. 1 no trump means 15 to 17 points. So those blanks there, that's what you're supposed to fill in. You should have decided with your partner what your point count agreement is for 1 no trump opening bids, and you should fill it in there. You might have decided 16 to 18. You might have decided 13 to 15. You might have decided 15 to 18. Whatever you've decided,
You need to fill it in there. And if you've decided on a range of more than 3 points, you should change your agreement. Because whatever you agree to, it's bad bridge to have a range of more than 3 points there. You are in the auction are trying to describe your hand to your partner. In terms of point count, you're trying to narrow your point count down to a range of not more than 3. And the beauty of no trump opening bids is they give you the opportunity to narrow that point count range down to 3 or less right off the reel, right on your first bid. So whatever you agree to there, you should not agree on a range of more than 3. And 15 to 17 is by far the most common agreement. And as a new player, you want to stick with the common agreements. You can start getting fancy about the time you get to be a life master, okay? And then you'll probably be wrong.
Yeah, that's not going to happen here.
Yeah, well, you never know. So that's what that's all about. What color is that?
Blue,
Blue, right? So it requires what?
that your partner announces.
It requires an announcement, right? And who has to make the announcement if you're playing live bridge?
Your
Partner.
partner.
Right? So if I'm sitting at a table at the bridge club playing line bridge and I open one no trump, my partner is expected to say 15, is expected to announce our point count, 15 to 17 or whatever it is.
But
And if they don't, the opponents will say, hey, partner, what's your agreement? You know. The other thing I teach in beginning bridge is stamen as a response to one no trump opening bid. So if you go down a little bit from the 15 to 17, you'll see 2 clubs stamen, and that box is checked there. That is a conventional bid, which means it doesn't mean you've got clubs, that I teach to my beginning bridge students, and that I suggest they use in response if their partner opens one no trump, that bid is in play. And what it means is you've got at least 8 points and at least 1 4-card major. Do you need stamen? No. If you were my partner and you opened one no trump and I had 4 hearts, we could just agree I'm going to bid 2 hearts. We don't need stamen. Or if I had 4 spades, we could just agree that I should bid, 2 spades. What's the advantage of stamen? Well, the advantage is if you open one no trump and I bid 2 hearts and we have a heart fit, who's going to be playing the contract? I am, right? And your hand is going to be dummy with all your points, and it's going to be sitting there face up for your opponents to look at. If you open one no trump and we end up in a heart contract, wouldn't it be better if my hand was dummy and all they could see is my 8 points? I mean, sure it would. How do we do that? I have to get you to bid the hearts first. That's what stamen does. One no trump by you, 2 clubs for me. If we end up with you're now, I've said, I've got a 4-card major, partner, do you? And if you have one, you're expected to answer in your 4-card major. And now if we have a golden fit, you will have bid it first and you will be declare and your hand will still be hidden and mine will be in dummy. So that's the purpose of it. And it's a really good convention. And I encourage my beginning bridge students to learn it right away, even though they don't need it to have perfectly good time playing bridge. Okay. But if you're, if you're just playing social bridge, you don't have to agree to use stamen if you don't want to. It's up to you. Okay. I just think it's a really good bid. Yeah.
Could I ask a question about that? So I know you're doing stamen and why you're doing it, and it's for a major. But what do you bid if your suit's really diamonds?
what do you bid if what?
What do you, my partner's bid one no trump.
Okay.
And what if my suit is really diamonds? If I bid diamonds, my partner's going to think I want you to say hearts. Do you have to say then 2 diamonds?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the answer is if your good suit is hearts or spades, you want to be in a heart or spade contract because major suit contracts are easier to play. If your suit is clubs or diamonds, you want to be in a no trump contract.
Okay.
Not a diamond contract or a club contract, because the way the ACBL has made the rules of bridge, you have to take 11 tricks to make game in clubs or diamonds. You only have to take 9 tricks to make game in no trump. So if your partner opens one no trump and you have good clubs or diamonds, you should be thinking, oh, I don't have to tell them about my clubs or diamonds. I want to try and get us to a no trump contract. So you should just invite game or go to game in no trump.
Okay.
Or pass if you have less than 8 points, right?
Right.
And let them play one no trump.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. But if your suit is hearts or spades, you would rather have them play in hearts or spades, right? Because that requires 10 tricks instead of 9, but it's easier to play a suit contract than a no trump contract. And as a new player, you normally find that out real quick. Yeah, good question. So anyway, that's why Stamen is marked. It's a conventional bid. Why is it not in red? Why does it not require alert? Because in the minds of the ACBL mucky mucks, that's such a common bid. Everyone uses that. We're not going to mess around and requiring an alert because everyone knows. One no trump, 2 clubs. Everyone knows the 2 clubs is Stamen. Well, again, pretty arrogant ACBL mucky mucks. Everyone doesn't know that. I played social bridge for a long time before I knew what 2 clubs meant. Before I started using 2 clubs as Stamen and focused on it as maybe not meaning they had clubs.
Hey, Vic.
But anyway, that's what ACBL, that's their take on it. That's why it's not in red. They don't want to slow the game down by having it be alerted and stuff.
Hey, Vic. Zoom is not allowing more than 40 minutes, and we got 1 minute left.
Okay.
And then we'll be cut off. So we can start with major openings next week. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
So we got less than a minute. So.
Okay, well, but I took a long time here just talking about, why convention cards. So next time we'll be able to jump right in where we left off here and we'll make faster progress. But the idea here is not to make fast progress. I'll do this for 5 or 6 weeks if we have to. We just want to go through this a little bit at a time and make sure you understand what you're marking here.